of the Committee of the Whole to order. The meeting has been noticed to Evans Print and Media Group, WCOW Radio, Magnum Radio, La Crosse Tribune, Sparta City Hall, and Sparta Free Library. Are there any changes to the agenda?
No, there are not.
That being so, I request a motion to adopt the agenda as printed.
So moved.
I will second.
We have a motion by Ms. Prestwood, a second by Mr. Scholze to approve the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Russ, the mission statement?
Yes, Sparta Area School District's mission statement is the following: to educate all students academically, emotionally, and socially to inspire curiosity and resilience.
Thank you. Is there any public input?
Not that I know of. Is there anyone out here that didn't fill out a form? Looks like we're good to go.
All right, thank you. Then we'll go to reports. Financial report, Ms. Hauser.
This is our monthly financial report for our operating funds, which are funds 10 and 27 combined. This is through the end of October. So for total revenue, the first column is our budget. And this is a revised budget. So although we just approved our original budget for the year, we've already been beginning to post budget revisions, which will come to the board in the next month. So you can see our budgeted revenue and our actual received revenue through October 31st is the column in yellow. Can you go back one, please? Thank you. For expenses, our salaries and benefits. Keep in mind that although our fiscal year began in July, many of our salaries and benefits don't begin until September 1st. And, oh, next slide, perfect, thank you. For our school budgets, these are the budgets that are managed at the building level. And so these typically would follow where the expenses are more at the beginning of the school year and then tailor off towards the end of the school year. And in academics, you can see that we're starting to make some grant purchases. And the next screen, we have our student services. These tend to, again, check with the school year because the major expense here is transportation. And then with operating and finance, again, our buildings and grounds budget tends to check with the school year as most of that is consumables. If you go to the next screen. Our insurance, our biggest policies we pay for at the beginning of the school year, it's an annual premium. And you can see some of our other big expenses, such as open enrollment, come on the state schedule versus a monthly cost. And the last slide. So our total expenses to date this school year are just over 8.8 million of our $44 million budget. The next slide shows our total revenue dashboard. You can see our actual year-to-date revenues versus the budget. And then that's broken out by local sources, which is mainly our tax revenue. So we'll start to see that increase in January. And then our state revenue. And then the last slide is our expenditure dashboard with our year-to-date total expenses broken out into salaries and benefits and then all other objects. Are there any questions on the October financials?
I guess I do kind of just in general, with costs continuing to go up in some areas. The two places I see the most opportunity for budget deficiency would be transportation and nutritional services.
Mhm.
Are we trending to where we thought we would be in those two areas so far throughout the year?
Yep, so nutrition services, yes, and that's not included in here. These are funds 10 and 27, but yep, good question for that. For transportation, we're trending well, except for our ridership has increased quite a bit this year. And so we're actually looking that we might need to increase a route and also a special education route based on those ride times that we set as priorities. So those are costs that I'll be monitoring to make sure that we have enough budget allocated there. But we've been working through with Southwest and we've had, which is a great thing, increased ridership from what we planned on when we started the school year. Yep.
Ms. Hauser, would you go to the grants and communication expenditures?
Slide 7.
Oh,
Oh, I'm sorry, grants and communications, that's slide 10.
there.
Yes.
That's the one. So 18,000 out of our $20,000 budget at this point.
I know a big piece of that is our software, our website subscription. And so those are some annual bills that would commonly happen already.
All right, that makes sense. Thank you. Any other questions?
And I'll do a detailed budget review, like I mentioned in December, with recommended budget revisions for our first round of budget revisions for the year.
And if I could ask you one more thing, regarding the possible need for the additional bus route due to increased ridership. We get some reimbursement based on the number of riders from the state, is that correct?
That is correct.
Does it come anywhere near?
Unfortunately, no. Yeah.
So while we would have to budget for an additional bus route, we wouldn't have to budget the whole amount, but pretty darn close.
You got it. Yeah, there will be a slight change to revenue, but not near enough to cover the increase in cost.
All right, thank you. If there are no other questions, we'll move on to business items. First one, discussion and possible recommendation to approve the Herman shed to the full board. Before we open that to discussion, I just want to comment that we already have a very nice building named Herman. So calling this the Herman shed, I think is redundant. I think it should be called the Scholze shed from now on.
Nice.
Who's going to handle this?
Mr. Fromm. All right. Might call it Mr. Fromm shed. So as you know, maybe you don't know, Mr. Fromm is planning on retiring at the beginning of the calendar year. So this might be his last presentation to the full board. So if that is the case, Mr. Fromm, we wish you nothing but the best. I know you'll be around the office and stuff like that, but thank you very much for all your years of service and everything you've done for our district.
Thank you. First slide, just a little bit of information on the shed. There'll be 3 18-foot wide insulated powered overhead doors.
I'm sorry, Mr. Fromm, can you talk into the microphone?
I'm sorry. There'll be 3 18-foot insulated powered overhead doors, and then there'll be 2 service doors. There are no interior walls. There'll be space for 6 full-size transportation vans. There will be outlets in there for charges if we need to charge the batteries, and there'll be LED lighting inside and out. Next slide. There were 3 costs for doing the buildings. I have categorized the 3 manufacturers, and then there's an excavating cost, and there's also an electrical cost. The Brickell Brothers cost, without factoring in the other cost, was $104,670. Northland was $91,395. And the Cleary was $92,102. The biggest difference between the three is that the Brickell Brothers is a stick frame built and the others are post frame. So for that reason, being that the costs are relatively close, I would recommend going with the Brickell Brothers building.
Mr. Fromm, can you explain the difference between the building structure? I know you mentioned the names, but the difference, the structural differences?
It basically the post frame, you have the big 4x4 posts that go into the ground, and the stick frame, that's all built above ground. So it's basically more like a residential or commercial building. And the other would be more like agricultural type, the post frame.
So what's the benefit to us to having no posts?
Just longevity and a little bit stronger.
Other questions?
Just another clarification, this would be coming out of referendum funds as well.
Ms. Hauser, could you please, oh, I'm sorry if that's okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Could you please remind us how much we have left in Herman referendum funds?
Yes, we started the year with just over $1 million. We have been making some additional purchases this year for some additional furniture and storage and things like that. But that hasn't amounted to, we easily have about 900,000 left over currently.
And Mr. Fromm, if I may, you said that the difference between the stick built and the post frame construction is a matter of longevity and quality. Is there a measurable difference between the two in terms of longevity? Would you be able to estimate?
Well, I would feel very confident that the building would survive 20 years with the post frame, but beyond that, it's a little questionable because you have the actual wood in the ground. So it's subject to moisture and weather conditions and the freezing and thawing. So 20 years would be safe, but I see this as being a building that's going to be there much longer than 20 years.
Thank you.
Mr. Fromm, is this the building that we previously discussed that we would wait to build to see how much money was left, or is this a completely new building?
This is a completely new building.
And what's supposed to go into this building?
The transportation vans.
If I could clarify, we did build an outbuilding a couple years back. We had talked about building it larger, and at the time determined we wanted to wait and see how much additional funds we would have. And so we built what we have now, and based off of a couple years of use, we've realized the need for some additional space. And so you're correct, Ms. Crestwood, that we have been talking about this for some time, but this is our first time really quoting it out and picking the specific layout and things.
Thank you.
So I guess I've been to Herman and seen the existing shed, and it's not big enough for the what we need it to do. Are we sure that this is 20 years into the future?
I'm very confident that will be.
Mr. Hendricks, so first and maybe more important, thank you again for all the service that you've provided to this district. Thank you for that. And good luck with retirement and enjoy that. I don't specifically have any questions, so I guess I would be willing to take a motion or make a motion if there isn't further discussion.
Okay, we have a motion to recommend the recommendation from administration.
Yes, sir.
To the full board.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Schulze and a second by Mr. Wells. Any further questions or discussion?
Yes, I have one. So with that about $900,000 left, what else are we anticipating that's going to come out of the rest of the referendum money, please?
This is the biggest item that we still had yet on our checklist. There are a few other things we've been talking about, but nothing to this extent. This was the one large remaining project.
Do we have a spot that we're planning to build this?
Yes,
Could you explain approximately where on the grounds?
it would be almost directly south of where the receiving area is right now, on the east end of the building.
So the field next to the retention pond?
Correct.
Further discussion, questions?
I'm wondering if we obtained only the quotes from Brian Anderson and B&B Electric, or did we make other quotes as well? Request other quotes, rather?
I did not, because of the dollar amount in the past, Brian Anderson, he's also the one that did the other Herman shed, and they were a fraction of the cost of Gerke. I did not get other quotes because right now the prices are, there's no guarantees on any pricing. So basically I just wanted to lock in contractors. So at least we had, before they start booking their and filling their schedules, I wanted to make sure that we had our name on the books as far as building the building. But we'll get additional quotes, especially for the electrical, because even though that doesn't have to go to the board, I need 2 more quotes for that. But they did the electrical work there. And so my guess is they're much more familiar with the electrical at that building. I doubt that anyone's going to come in cheaper, but we will get additional quotes before the building's built.
Okay, thank you. And I
You're
just
welcome.
also wanted to thank you for, during my short time, your expertise that you've shared with the board. I've really appreciated it. You've been willing to discuss or answer questions beyond this time, and I just really appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Good, okay. I just had a question about the timeline. Do we know, are we gonna run into issues if we don't go the stick-built route of getting posts into the frozen ground, or is that
Well, we're looking at a spring or summer build.
spring or summer? Okay,
Yeah.
so that wouldn't matter.
Yeah, we're not looking to build it right now. But I just want to get on the books because people are already booking up. You probably noticed around town, all the building that's been going on, and with the economy and the higher interest rates, I think it may slow down some, but I would still like to make sure that this is a goal for next year.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think my last question, is this insulated and heated?
It is not. It's going to be strictly for vehicle storage, so I didn't see the need there. On the other building, there was, because that also had a wash bay, so I had to keep the plumbing from freezing. And we also had a boiler that was left over from the high school when we did the upgrade on the HVAC system. So I already had a heat source that didn't cost us anything.
So what are we planning to store in the existing area that's used to park the vehicles now?
Well, right now, the space that we had dedicated for a more, basically, once they could put the boiler in there and the hot water heater, we didn't have room for a John Deere tractor. So it'd be for the John Deere tractor, for the skid steer, and for a new plow truck that we bought last year. Plus, the back side of this was designated as storage, and it's completely filled.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further questions? If not, I believe this would be a roll call vote, please.
Ms. Presswood,
Yes.
Mr. McKenna,
Yes.
Mr. Schulze,
Yes.
Mr. Burns Gilbert,
Yes.
Ms. Lopez,
Yes.
Mr. Wells,
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks.
Yes. Motion carries 7-0. Item B, discussion and possible action to approve the Fab Lab Grant to the full board.
All right, Mr. Ford and Mr. Engel are going to join us for this one. Ms. Wilcox was planning on joining us tonight, but something came up with her family. She wasn't able to make it tonight, but she did a lot of legwork on this. This is a Fab Lab grant, and before we get into it, what we need is what we're looking for is the board approval to go for the grant, not to buy the Pug Mill. So the Pug Mill is what we're aiming for, but per the grant, we just need the board approval to move forward with the grant, and we have some flexibility with what we want to buy, but we're planning on hopefully buying a Pug Mill. This is from the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation. They're focused in on STEM, the science, math, technology, engineering. And the district's commitment is 50% of what we're asking for. So we're looking for, and Mr. Engel and Mr. Ford are going to talk a little bit about a Pug Mill. A Pug Mill costs approximately $9,000. And so, for example, the grant, if we're awarded the grant, would pay $6,000, and our portion would be $3,000. And we can, that's a portion that we'd be able to absorb relatively easy. So, so that's kind of what we're looking for the approval to submit the final application. And what we're planning on is the Pug Mill. So Mr. Ford and Mr. Engel.
Thank you. Mr. Russ is all excited about this Pug Mill because he's been talking about it for a long time. So we had some bets on how many times I got to say Pug Mill up here, and he already took half my thunder. So, so we are very excited about a Pug Mill, excuse me, about a Pug Mill. And we'll let Mr. Engel explain way more about this than we ever need to know. But this is, I do want to thank Liz for looking into the grants here. This is a very expensive piece of equipment for our high school, and it's something that we've needed for a long time. Mr. Russ has tried very hard to get this worked into our building budget, and it's a difficult amount of money to, excuse me, to budget for every year. The other concern is that we do our best to save our dollars and to make that purchase at the end of the year. But as we know, a lot of these things take weeks and weeks after budgeting for them to show up. So we'd like to kind of move on this sooner than later, and Mr. Engel can explain why. But Ms. Wilcox was nice enough to seek out a grant that helps us out a lot. So like Mr. Russ said, we're looking for approval to start that process. Of course, we'd be coming back to the board with any dollars and any approval of the purchasing if we get to that point. So ready to explain what a Pug Mill is? Okay.
All right. So when I first came here, we had not a ton of students in the program. Now we currently have somewhere around 125 to 150 kids per semester taking class between myself and Miss Hughes. When you buy clay, you know, the plan always is to use all of it. However, there's always scrap produced, and it's usually around a 50% mark. Now we recycle that. We try to recycle it by hand. But at the end of the year, then you have a bunch left over. And literally right now we have tons of clay in buckets waiting to be recycled. And we've hit that. We haven't bought any with the prospects of being able to recycle what we actually have. Okay. The Pug Mill is in its basic form is a very large meat grinder. Is a way of processing clay back to a recycle or a usable medium. It's safe. And the one that we're looking, you know, right now, you know, you could have dust and things like that. It's not the best situation necessarily. We try to make sure, we try to refresh it with water inside of buckets, and it works pretty well. But in the end, it's a long process that doesn't give us workable clay as fast. And then at the end of the year, we have a bunch left over that still needs to be recycled. With the Pug Mill that we're looking at, it fits our capacity. Okay, it's the largest one that Peter Pugger makes, and the batch capacity is something that we're looking at having. The next step down would be more affordable as far as things go, and we might have been able to hit it, but then we don't have the batch capacity. It's easily way less than half the batch capacity, and we really need that. This grant is a fantastic thing, opportunity for us to be able to do this. And then one of the big things that they want, you know, it's a STEAM grant. So they're looking for us to be able to do things cross-curricularly. So one of the things that we've done so far already is I've reached out to Ms. Sackman, and we're actually going to be doing a unit together in the future. Once this is here, where we talk about states of material. Okay, so from liquid through solid and things like that. So what's that? Yes, in the science department, I'm sorry, through chemistry. Does anybody, I'll open it up for questions as far as what your hit the spots that I maybe didn't cover well enough for you.
I'm a little curious to know, so if you recycle half-ton a year of clay, what's the value of a half-ton of
Okay.
clay?
So typically, very good. You had me write this down and I didn't say it. So typically we'll go through in prior to and now after COVID, the amount that we used during COVID was much less because, well, the first year we couldn't touch clay, then we could give some and all that kind of thing. But a typical year is 2,000 or is 2 ton for the first semester, 2 ton for the second semester, as far as what we're using. So you got about 2 ton left over that you're breaking down and recycling and can reuse. And so you're taking a look at, for sure right now, I'm going to say that we have enough clay in the room currently that the next 3 years, possibly, we wouldn't have to buy clay by recycling with this machine.
At about $1,400 to $2,000 a year, right?
So,
Wait, the return on investment.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's one of the reasons. And we want, number one, we want to show them responsible. I mean, just today, I was taking kids through how potters make their money, how to price things, how to utilize every dollar that you can. Well, this is one of the best ways of showing them that is, you know, your scrap isn't just scrap. It's the next project once you recycle it. And that's what we're looking to do.
Seems to me that it creates a bunch of teachable moments as well. So I think that's a nice addition to that.
Do any of the other schools have art programs that use clay as well?
As far as
I mean,
in our
district,
school?
middle school
Yeah.
or?
So the middle school does, they do at least I think every level has some unit. Now, the extent of that unit is how long it is. In the littles, it's usually smaller because they have this much to teach, right? And then, and in the middle school, it's a little bit longer segment. So
Not a standalone class that I'm aware of.
correct. Right.
Is there value in collecting that and recycling that as well?
Absolutely, yes, 100%. So, and then that saves money on them.
I'm excited for a Pug Mill. I just wanted to say it out loud, but I just was curious if you could speak to, the lifespan of the machine or the warranty, like what
Okay.
does that look like? We might not be there yet if the grant hasn't gone through, but.
Absolutely. So these things are low geared things. They're built like tanks. A Peter Pugger with how much, even as much as we'd be using it, I would see would last easily past me being here. And my daughter is 4, so I've got at least 18 more years. So I'm thinking it'd be at least 20 years, and that would be an underestimate on that one. They're made like tanks. If we keep them up well and keep them properly maintained, should be easily 20, 30 years.
So if this is if the board wishes to do so, we could put this on consent. And the next steps, if it does go through, we would apply for the grant with the board's permission. And then once awarded, that would come back as the grants section of our full board meeting, and we can give an update at that time. So if this holds true, it'd be $6,000 that we would look at. There is an electrical part too. That's not part of the grant. That's less than $2,000 that would be included, and we'll take care of that as well.
I'd make a motion to approve the Fab Lab grant to the full board under consent.
I will second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second to, just so I'm clear, to approve applying for the Fab Lab. Okay. Any further discussion? Questions? If not, all those in favor say aye.
I just have one quick question. Sorry to interrupt the eyes. The total, is this grant available more than just this year, or is this our one shot at the grant? And is this something that, I think I was looking on that website, it was 500,000 maybe for the whole grant?
So I believe the
state has allotted $500,000 for the grant, total to be dispersed as to whomever applies, right? So there's an advantage to applying as early as possible, first come, first serve, at least in the hierarchy, but you have to still be chosen for the grant, right? And that does not happen until after the 1st or the 15th of January. I can't recall. It's on the slide. So Liz has spoken to the woman who works with this grant at the state level. She's very excited. She sees very few grants or applications that use art in, as being part of the process. So she's excited. She can't, of course, say that we're going to get it or anything like that, but we think we have a pretty good shot if we get on it right away and we can show some cross-curricular use for it. But we could get more if we asked for more, we could get less.
So, but to answer your question, yes, there is more opportunities. However, we've explored these in the past and the district has to be able to match. And this was something that was appealing to us because the $3,000 cost for a $9,000 Pug Mill is something that we can fit into our budget very easily. When you start looking at a CNC machine, new welding equipment, the totality of what we probably need to look at, that takes some future planning, which we're planning on moving forward towards. But at this time, this is something that we can commit to. So if we look to buy new lathes like we have in the past, new presses and that sort of thing, that would have to be a long step process because those are $600,000, not $660,000, for instance. And now we're looking at a $30,000, which is it's a bigger piece of the pie that we need to look at, especially where we're looking at. So the answer is yes, but at this time we feel that this is something that we can do financially, and the best thing to move forward with is what our thought is.
If there are no more questions, a motion would be calling for the vote.
Yep.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Is that okay on
Thank you,
consent,
John.
or do you want to go that to the?
Yeah, he said.
Under consent? Thank you.
And can I be the first to say thank you very much?
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
You're welcome. Item C, discussion and recommendation to the full board to approve the Sparta Area School District policies as listed.
Before we jump into this is the first time that you're going to be seeing a long list of policies. We decided at a previous workshop that we would be a workshop model. This one, Colin, Tony, Amy, and John were part of this, and we spent all day on a workshop model. We had a community input, which was great. So we went through that. So this is really the second reading that the board members would have had. So these are recommendations that the committee went through, that we wanted to bring forth to the committee of the whole through the workshop model. Once we go through these, it's pretty much open. We can pick them apart. We can go one by one. However, through the workshop, the committees did highlight some things that we'd want to look at. So it's pretty much, this is the first time we're going through it, and it might take some time, and that's okay.
So I would proceed by asking, is there any of these listed policies that you would like to pull out for further discussion or review, and then we will vote on the remainder? Okay.
So Mr. Hendricks, I guess my recommendation would be let's look at all the policies right now. And if we need to pull something out, then we'll pull something out. But we may find after discussion that everybody's comfortable with all the policies.
So are you saying we go through each one individually?
No, I just say at this point, does anybody have questions about policies? And then we can pull out policies as needed if necessary.
I do. I have a question regarding 3131 reduction in staff under option 2.
The second option too, correct?
Oh, I don't have it pulled up. I'm going by my notes. It was the one selected.
Okay.
Keep
31. So this is a reduction in staff, and your question
So
was.
my
with the-
question is during discussion, I believe that we, Ms. Hauser, I was going to ask you to confirm this. I believe that we wanted to change the option to 12 months instead of 1 year. Kind of a rolling, yeah, okay, so if everyone agrees with that, I think we should change that from 1
So-
year to 12 months. Yes.
In the
that one.
first paragraph,
Mhm.
right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
That's where I saw it.
So it would be that to,
Or is it previous 12 months? Previous 12 months, please. Of the previous 12. Thank you.
anything else on that one? Other policies?
I just have a quick question on 5830, student fundraising. So near there's green, highlighted green and then crossed out. Can somebody explain to me why it's that way?
the bottom.
Yes.
Yeah. I believe that is. That's our previous
The
policy.
previous policy. Okay. I assume so, but I didn't want to.
Yep.
Thank you.
Heidi, where were you talking about with that? There it is, bringing the policy up. So I was just
Uh,
near the end.
Yeah,
Yeah.
towards the end, it's highlighted green and then crossed out. So I just wanted confirmation that right there,
Gotcha.
for
Okay,
instance,
thank
that
you.
that was the old policy and has been rewritten by Neola.
Sure.
A question on that while we're on 5830. Were the ages chosen for the limits? Was there a reason behind some of those different ages for participation?
So when it talks about students under 12, any student under 9 and that sort of thing.
Yep.
I don't have rationale for that, Neola's recommendation.
That's okay, just from Neola's.
Yeah, just from Neola's.
best
you know.
practice, okay. I just didn't know if there was, my other question was if there was anything else we should add around expectations for financial management or regular audits or anything like that. I know the policy that we crossed out there was more lengthy, and so I think that was part of the conversation to shorten and make it more digestible for folks. But that was just a thought I had of, does it make sense to add some of that in there, or would that, how would students and how would advisors get some of those expectations when it comes to financial management?
Yeah, so those are more the rules and policies of cash taking and that sort of thing.
Mhm.
We have documentations. Once they get them in, they have sheets that they have to do for chain of command and that sort of thing. So those are in place already with our advisors. So when a group would want to do those things, we would go through that process and say, hey, kids, this is your drop off. This is what happens, and that sort of thing.
Thank you.
Additional.
Would we be able to pull up 3230, please? Conflict of interest.
3230.
So option listed in number 1 under paragraph B, we could go down just a little bit farther down. I think there are 2 paragraph Bs. No, that's not right. Let's see. It is, I believe that this is the one where it gave the example of perhaps music teachers being able to teach outside of class. Was that not this policy, Mr. Ross?
I think it could be, yeah, I think it's, one and B, the first B. The provision of any private lessons or service or fee unless the provision or service is arranged outside of school and separate from and in addition to regular support provided to students as part of the professional staff regular duties.
Oh, okay. So there it is. Yes, exactly. So where it has the parentheses. I think when we were discussing it in the workshop, I felt like the thought was that we wanted to give opportunities for teachers to be able to teach outside of the classroom, perhaps in certain situations, especially for music teachers and things like that. And if we were to put an X in that parentheses, the way I'm reading it, it would provide teachers to be able to tutor students outside of school, including students that aren't their own students. If I'm reading that correctly, I think that's something that we may want to consider.
So are you saying for profit that they would charge to do that? Okay. My concern about doing that is it will provide an advantage to them over the local music store that has to pay for and provide its own space. And I don't know that we want to be in competition in that regard. You know what I mean?
So, unless if I'm not getting the full idea here, but just in general, let's say if we have like a math teacher tutoring or whatnot, or an English teacher tutoring, I've heard instances, like especially with at universities where the professors offer tutoring programs, and it's kind of how they do it is that it's kind of like a cheat way in to essentially ace the test. So the rumor, or as is the unethical situation, would be that those that take the tutoring part of their class, who pay for that additional tutor, they end up getting an easy A because they cover everything on the test and whatnot, a paid A kind of deal. Now, I'm not saying that any of our staff would do that, but that's an ethical concern that I think we should have up front, because
But remember, the policy says unless the provision of the service is arranged outside of school and separate from, in addition to, the regular support. So as long as we're not doing it on campus during, I'm going to say 7:30 to 3:30, that would not preclude me as a math teacher saying, yep, let's meet at the local library, and I'm charging $20 an hour.
And the way I read that was, we're talking about that number one, correct? Yeah. So by leaving it unchecked, then at what comes after the parenthesis isn't part of it, right?
Yes.
So it would just stop at, yeah, so it wouldn't put that extra limitation on if the students wouldn't be able to be in one of their classes throughout the normal day, right? If we checked it, that would be an additional barrier to providing that support, I guess, is how I'm reading that. So I would like to keep it unchecked.
The way I read it, and I could be completely wrong, but the way I read it is that without it being checked, the teacher would need to have that student in a class. And with it being checked, it could be a student that is not their student.
Just for the sake of Miss Cooley being directly behind you, she's nodding.
Sure.
So did you have some input on that?
So it reads, I read it the same way Mr. Cullen reads it as well. And just looking at a couple other districts, that most districts that use Neola do have that section unchecked and they don't include that. So I think you're going for the exact same thing, but leaving it unchecked gets both of you what you're hoping for staff. I just quickly looked at a couple other Neola districts to make sure that we were confirming that.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. S., the spirit of this policy that I heard you express during the workshop was that you wanted staff to be able to maximize their gifts outside of 7 to 4:30.
Yes, so outside, think about music, I'll use the math tutor, I think about music instructors. There's not a lot of people with that kind of expertise. And having the ability to do something private, I think is a benefit to our kids as well. I'm not looking to get into competition at all with them, but when you start talking about piano lessons and stuff like that, they actually need some space to go. So, but yeah, I'd recommend that this is because it's a benefit to our kids. And if our staff is willing, they have a talent to share.
So I'm misunderstood because this doesn't necessarily provide to them then the right to use their own classroom for this.
They cannot do that.
Correct.
Okay. Maybe it would be easiest then, Mr. Russ, if you would just put a line rather than worrying about unchecked or checked, put a line through anything that we don't want.
And if there's no other talking points, I have a couple talking points, if that's okay, from the workshop. All right, can you please pull up, I'll go in order. Oops, non-scrim, that's no problem, we made that. 3220, please, staff evaluation and educator effectiveness. There's a talking point on E. Just want to be clear on this. It is checked coming out of the workshop as an option. It doesn't mean that we will be doing it. So for instance, aid in the established individual staff members' compensation. I would not advise in telling Mr. Engel, for example, who was just here, if you recycle 75% of the clay, you will get X amount in return. That is not what we're looking for. It's not telling Mr. Ford if he's got a 7th grade math class, if you raise your forward exam by X, we will compensate you for it. That is not what it's there for. It is therefore more for administration, for the board to have the ability and the administration have ability to put in performance measures that says, you know what, Ms. Hauser, if you saved us from, you know what, you balance the budget, you've done a very good job. That's a performance measure. Here's your bonus. I'm not saying that's the right thing to do, but that would give you the ability to put some performance measures in there that could be compensated for reaching those benchmarks. By not checking that, you would not necessarily have the ability to do that by policy. So having a check gives you more latitude in moving forward in specific situations if you want. And that was one of the talking points that we had. Because from a teacher perspective, that's like, whoa, wait a minute here. You know, in the spirit of cooperation, the spirit of professional learning communities, Ms. Lopez and I are teaching the same class. I'm knocking it out of the park. I need to share those strategies, or vice versa. More like Ms. Lopez is knocking it out of the park and I need to learn from her. The last thing I want Ms. Lopez to say, nope, I'm keeping it to myself because I want to hit that performance bonus. That's not what it's there for. It's not to decrease the amount of communication and sharing across the district. So that was one talking point.
Mr. Russ, because it's specific, this policy is specific, at least this section, to the evaluation of teachers and principals, even if there is never any intention to use E in compensating teachers, it's a realistic possibility for principals in the district. Is that correct?
I don't know how realistic it is, but that would be a better performance measure for a principal to have rather than a collection of teachers to do that. So it's more an administratively driven policy that I've seen it in the past.
I think it's problematic in consideration of teacher compensation, but I don't think it's problematic in the case of administration. So I suggest we leave it in and for that reason.
I agree with you.
Would it make sense in that first paragraph? At the last sentence, educator effectiveness program for the evaluation of principals and administration in the district? And not have teachers be a part of that paragraph?
But A, B, C, and D.
I apologize. That would be still for teachers, wouldn't it? Yeah.
For E, you could put administration only.
Yeah, I don't know how important it is. I think having it checked is the important aspect.
Yes,
of it.
that's the important thing.
Okay, thank you.
I also think that it's good to have as an option for staff in case of administration. Someone from administration says, hey, this person's really good. I think they deserve some form of compensation for what they have done, either in their PLCs or their strive towards reaching the students' goals on a grade, on a basis of a grade or as a holistic community basis. I think that's a option that we should have available to all levels of our staff, not necessarily saying that we have to do it tonight, but having it available isn't bad either.
If there's nothing else, I'd like to go to 3310. Employee expression in non-instructional settings. We had some discussions on this. This is a very, I don't want to say touchy subject. It's a question of First Amendment rights versus employment or protected speech is what it is. And the workshop, we agreed that A, C, and D, we're okay. B, on the other hand, disrupt harmony. We had a discussion on that and had a difficult time to check that.
I guess I don't know if that's the one I brought up, but that was one I didn't know what disrupt harmony means. So I tried to rewrite that a different way. That might be easier to digest of refrain from expressions that would be harmful to colleagues or interfere. Like that, to me, that's more direct of the language that they're using versus disrupting harmony that, I mean, I could have said I wanted the Packers to lose yesterday. That might be disrupting harmony for someone. I just feel like that opens doors that we don't want to go down.
And some people may say that's even harmful.
True.
And that's we kind of say that tongue in cheek, but you start to go down you're out and said, hey, go Pack, go. And they cream the Cowboys. And we have some diehard Cowboy fans here, even in Wisconsin. Those might be words that people are very offended by and could be, say, Miss Lopez, I can't sit next to you because you have that green on and the Cowboys won. So, and that's where we came around is really, how do we draw the line between the freedom of expression and that First Amendment right? It's wide open. And it says should refrain, not not. So we had it unchecked because of the arbitrary. It's hard to define that.
During the workshop, I was comfortable with it being unchecked and I still am.
We had some good discussions on a lot of these policies.
Just out of curiosity, what about we have that or section there that interfere with the maintenance of discipline by school officials? Can we dive in? Could you give me an explanation on that one? Or
That is, so, or interfere with the maintenance of discipline by school officials. So if it's gets to a point where kids are talking about it so much, it causes a substantial disruption that we can prove, then we might be able to go down a line, and having that unchecked, I don't think that would still allow us not to do that, because now we're talking about something that's going on in the school that we have a little bit more latitude than thinking that a kid's not happy that the Cowboys lost and you have a go pack go sign on. Because we have walked through, hey, if this and that, you have student expression, you have students walking through that. So that's all part of the process when we could come into a First Amendment right. Any other discussion on 3310? And then the next one I'd like to pull up is 3440. Job-related expenses. Our current policy is that the IRS sets the rate, and our current policy says we're 10 cents less the IRS rate. Our policy also states that we round down to the nearest penny, not up. So if the IRS rate, I'm making this up, I don't know what it is, if it's 52.3 cents per mile, you take off the 10. So it goes down to 42.3. And regardless of what that 0.3 is, it could be 0.9, it goes down to 43. It does not get rounded up to 44. That is our current practice.
During workshop, at the very least, during workshop, I suggested, and maybe others did too, that we should at the very least round it up.
Round up.
So thank you for crossing the down off.
That's what we decided. We said, hey, we're going to keep the 10 cents, but we're going to round up. So we'd always round up to the nearest penny. So in that case, it'd be 42.3. It'd round up to 44 cents.
My recollection is that this decrease moving away from the IRS rate was done years ago as a cost saving measure. Ms. Hauser, what would it cost us to pay the IRS rate? How much additional would it cost? To the penny, by the way.
I apologize. I don't have that.
Ms.
And-
Hauser. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Is there a way to quickly determine how many miles last year we staff put in? Okay. Okay. I think during workshop, we had talked about maybe changing that also. Do you recall that, Mr.
I
Hendricks?
must have left, sorry, before this one came up, because I don't recall this discussion.
Okay.
Must have been.
We had talked about it, but I think I don't know if we had the numbers then, but we were
didn't.
guessing that it was going to be more expensive than we initially thought. But I think that would still be helpful to, by the end of the month, be able to make that more clearly.
One other addition since the workshop is making it clear where, how is everything, which web browser do you use to track mileage? It used to be MapQuest, and MapQuest is not really, I don't know, I still use it, I'm fine with it, but anyway, it's more, Google Maps is more often used and more often acceptable. So I did add a bold there, payment and reimbursement for rates per diem for meals, lodging, and mileage, and I did put in parentheses in bold using Google Maps. That way it's easier for our business office when they say, no, we're rounding up, it shouldn't be, you know, but sometimes different MapQuest versus Google Maps versus your phone versus using the regular traditional map, which I still like to use, is so just it takes it out and it's less talking points for the business office.
So it's just a standard.
Yes, it seems to be the standard.
So Ms. Hauser, you feel comfortable having a number to us by the end of the month at that meeting? Okay, thank you.
Anything else with job-related expenses? And then the last one is Article 711. And this is our current policy as of now. We talked about, and this is kind of a talking point in here, we didn't make any adjustments, but we talked about bringing the meals to be used from us. It's currently, sorry, I got too many tabs open here. From $6 over to a range from $10 to $15 with the price of meals. $6 was chosen when it was less than $3. Now it's not less than $3. So I'd like to propose, I know it's more, but I'd suggest, I believe we talked about $12 between 10 and 15. I'd say split the difference, $12.50. I believe that'll be 2 or 3 meals. And if we need to up it, we can go back and change the policy as well.
Yeah, I remember.
We'll be
when-
talking about 1C.
Yeah, I remember when I was in high school. I mean, we have to realize that it's at $5 right now. So in a day, you forget you're done. And so what do you do then? I mean, don't have your wallet on you.
No, we don't accept cash there anymore anyway. But no, we give reminders and everything like that.
Yeah.
With that, this gives it a little bit more cushion. And remember, this dollar amount is not for, I want to buy $10 in cookies. No, it's you have to buy the meal for that. So, and we give alerts. It's outlined in the policy what we do. Our building principals are very active in telling people, hey, this, and this. Ms. Testing works very hard with their crew, and we do not, it's not our practice to deny meals, especially to the younger ones. So the high school ones, we'll have some conversations, and we have some alternate areas for them that would be able to get by and have those discussions. At any times, families can enroll in the free and reduced lunch program. So that's rolling. And we do stress to some families that are just on that cusp, you know, hey, I just don't qualify for that reduced. Please still let us know, because we'd like to be able to support them the best we can. As long as we like to be proactive rather than reactive. And we do support families that way through the Angel Fund and through other measures.
So if this is something we're going to approve at the next meeting, we need to decide on that number tonight, probably, correct?
Yes, yes. And I would recommend $12.50. We'll cut the middle between 10 and 15.
With the difference in cost of meals at different ages and the likelihood that meals go up before another board approves this or reviews it, could you do a number of meals instead of a dollar amount?
I think the meal, the system is more based on dollar amount rather than meal clicks. So they're charged. So having 4 meals, the computer won't pick up 4 meals. It'll pick up $10.54, for example.
And it gets further complicated by the fact that lunch meal costs vary by age.
Yes.
Mr. Russ, is $12.50 going to be enough to provide a decent meal to our students?
I believe that'll give you 3 meals. Or we can go to 15 and that's fine. It's just, we have to recoup that. Remember, anything that we're over at the end, Fund 10 has to push into Fund 50 to make that balanced. And, could come from their fund balance, but once again, we don't want to do that. We want to work with our families to make sure that we take care of that.
I guess 3 was kind of my magic number. So whatever the number is for 3 high school lunches is kind of what I'd like it.
So it's more, so you're looking at 13, 14. So I think $15 would be acceptable.
If a student is at a significant negative balance, what are they being provided then during this time while they're waiting for payment into their accounts?
At the elementary level, it's my understanding that they get the meals.
Okay.
At the high school level, we work with them and we have a food cupboard that we give them. We offer them some meals out of that.
So Mr. McKenna, did I hear you say $15? Is that?
Yeah. That's,
Okay,
that's
I would
3
support
meals.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
I would support that as well.
And I believe that's all I had for talking points.
I was just gonna, that I'm on board with the 15, but I just was gonna make a recommendation to change the address at the end of that policy. We're not at Franklin Street anymore.
And which policy?
That, the one we were just talking
7-Eleven?
about, 7-Eleven, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Russ. So are there any other concerns or questions about the remaining policies?
I have 1 or 2.
Okay.
Policy 3362.01, threatening behavior towards staff members. In this policy, there is a list of it. I believe it's in the second paragraph, the second sentence. It says such actions by any student, parent, visitor, staff member, board member, contractor, or agent of the board is prohibited. I am wondering if we should not include other staff member.
Mrs. Lopez, can you elaborate on that? I'm sorry. So
Sure.
it says student, parent, visitor, staff member, board member, contractor, or agent of the board and other staff member? Is that what?
Or other staff member, right? This is threatening behavior towards staff members. Any threatening behavior.
Yeah, I feel like the staff member in and of
I am
itself.
so sorry.
No, that's
I
okay.
read that about 3 times and didn't see that, and I may have just said it out loud.
Sure. No, that's
I
okay.
apologize. Thank
So is
you.
that sufficient? I
That
mean,
is
you-
sufficient.
okay.
Yes, it is. Thank you so much.
Okay. And you had another one.
Yes. I guess it kind of goes to a general policy question and comment that I emailed to you. A lot of these policies, as we're reviewing them, all of the options are visible with the crossouts, the green highlighted, the everything. I was wondering if before we approve them, if we would be able to see a clean copy. I think that might be helpful to ensure that we're not assuming that something's checked and then finding out later that it is not, or vice versa. And then that kind of leads me to 2 policies that we had discussion about at the workshop. Policy 3122, for example, or 3362. They both include a highlighted, or rather a bolded note in parentheses, which contradicts the wording later on. So it was in regard to the compliance officer, whether if a complaint was made against one compliance officer, would the compliance officer be the other compliance officer or the superintendent? The note recommends that it be the other compliance officer, but in the wording later, it states that it would be the superintendent. So if we just remove that note, that bolded, highlighted note from the policy. I'm not sure if that's part of it, or I believe you said it was part of the policy, Mr. Russ, during the workshop, and that it would remain.
And Mrs. Lopez, you're speaking of policy 3122 right now, correct?
3122, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And also 3362. They have the same note and the same wording.
So with 3122 in the bold, they have 2 compliance officers listed. Okay, but if you scroll down to complaint procedure, first paragraph, last sentence. Additionally, if the complaint is regarding a CO, the complaint shall be reported to the district administrator, who shall resume the role of the CO as for such complaints. One of the things that we talked about, and I did follow up with Neola, we could say the district administrator shall serve as a CO for the purpose of addressing the compliant, if we wish to do so. Or we can say the district administrator will assign the other CO or themselves. Right now, it just says the district administrator shall assume the role of the compliance officer.
It's just the wording in the note that states that the other, you have a male and you have a female compliance officer in, or just 2. So that if one is the subject of the complaint, the other one is the compliance officer. That's the wording in the note. So if we remove the note, then the wording is perfectly fine.
So when the policy is done, the notes are for us as we're reviewing them. The notes are not included in the final policy. So anywhere you see the bold in the note, those are not included in the final policy. That's for us to ensure we are being compliant with the state statutes that are required within it.
Okay, good. So then to my point, if we could maybe get a clean copy, that would be very
You got
helpful.
it.
And just a procedural question, Mr. Russ or Ms. Kulig, are you required to show us all of those options 3 times, or is it okay to give us a clean version in that 3rd viewing?
We can give the clean version on the 3rd view. There's
Perfect.
just, it's as much information as you want.
Okay,
It's just like with the revenue reports, Ms. Hauser will be able to give you all sorts of stuff.
great.
But it's just cleaning that down.
All right, thank you.
We can work on getting that done.
Thank you for that.
I have nothing else.
Anything further?
While we were on that one, I was curious, I think this happened before I got in there, but about the addition to the male and female under the new Title IX additions for the LGBTQ identities there. I wasn't sure if we had the ability to list or edit the federal language and the federal law. And to me, that kind of took away a little bit from those other pieces that are included in there from the Title IX side.
Where that came from was earlier in the 5,000 series, when we had these discussions about Title IX, we added male and female to the student sections as well, if memory serves me right. And that's where that came from, to be consistent. It was first brought up, it must have been 2-3 months ago when we went through this, that we added male and female. Collectively, we decided that would be the right thing to do.
Okay. And we're able to make that change. That's editable.
Yep.
I just have one comment. Thank you guys, whoever sat in the room as a total of a day. This would have taken 3 months under our old workshop policy. Fantastic job.
And Mr. Hendricks, I didn't hear any policies that we felt we needed to pull out or make adjustments to. I know Ms. Hauser is going to give us a little update on the travel reimbursement policy, but I don't know that it's necessary that we pull that out. So if there's no further discussion, I would make a recommendation to approve all SASD policies as presented for approval to the full board. Can I place it? I can't place it under consent. I could do that, couldn't I? Let's place that under consent as well.
Very good.
I'll second.
Thank you. So we have a motion by Mr. Scholze, seconded by Mr. McKenna. Any further questions or comments? If not, all in favor of that recommendation, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Closing items, Mr. Russ.
All right, and tonight's our first Monday night board meeting. Went well. And so thank you very much for the change. A couple, the 28th was our next full board meeting, and we have our policy workshop on the 2nd. So continuing with our plan of bringing a whole nother set of policies, we'll do that in a similar fashion. And then we have the committee of the whole on the 12th. And since Monday, that would be the 26th, is a holiday, the board moved it up to the 19th. So our Monday meetings are the 12th and the 19th in December. And then for announcements and information, we're going to be coming up on Thanksgiving break here on Wednesday. So, and with opening weekend, I want to wish everybody safe and be safe when they're hunting, all success, and to make sure you're safe at all times. ISA, really appreciate ISA having their showcase outside of the board meeting today, and them being flexible for moving at the last second and all that. Very nice to see all the kids and their action in their presentations and that. So the musical, it's the last weekend for the musical. I think tickets are hard to come by, but you can always try to get them. Might be some single tickets here and there, but recommend the musical. And we also have our winter sports coming up and concert season. For our kids, we just had Herman had their first concert opening up, their 3rd grade concert. That went very well. It was great to see all the kids there, and they did an excellent job. And finally, from me, I'd like to thank Ms. Kulig. This will be Ms. Kulig's last board meeting with us. We just want to wish her the best of luck moving forward, and thank you very much for all your efforts, especially through the pandemic and before and after that as well. So thank you very much, and we wish you nothing but the best.
Thank you so much.
That's all. Then a motion to adjourn is in order.
So moved.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. We are adjourned.
All right, I'm going to call this meeting to order. The meeting has been noticed to Evans Print and Media Group, WCOW Radio, Magnum Radio, La Crosse Tribune, Sparta City Hall, and Sparta Free Library. Mr. Russ, are there any changes to the agenda?
No, they're not.
All right, I would request a motion to adopt the agenda. I have a motion from Mr. Hendricks. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. McKenna. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, Mr. Russ, do we have any public input?
I do not believe so. Any public input? Just want to say Pug Mill over and over.
All right, yeah, there it is.
Okay.
Right.
Yes.
All right, item 2A, motion and roll call vote to go into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statute 19.85, parent 1, parent C, and parent F. The Board of Education may move into closed session for the purpose of discussion and potential action to review and act upon a complaint regarding individual staff person's performance and students' behavior, which may involve the disclosure of pupil record information. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion from Ms. Presswood. Do I have a second?
Second that.
A second from Mrs. Lopez. Roll call.
Ms. Lopez,
Yes.
Mr. Schulte,
Yes.
Mr. Burns Gilbert,
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks. Yes. Mr. Wells,
Yes.
Mr. McKenna,
Yes.
Ms. Prestwood.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0. We are in closed session.